Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me just welcome you here to wonderful Silverstone. Silverstone is a treasure. It's something we share between Buckinghamshire, our colleagues in Northamptonshire, and we're very close also to Oxfordshire. And it's very much the home of the Formula One. It's Motorsport Valley. It's also the home to the new Silverstone Enterprise Zone, home to something like 300 businesses, generating something like 3,000 jobs. And I think it's a great example of how councils and private business can work together to generate what I think is the real entrepreneurial heart of this country and generate the sort of enterprise, growth and jobs that this country needs. And I think that's very much what the Strategic Alliance and the Economic Heartland is all about. So what I want to do in about the next 10 minutes is take you through a little bit of the history of what is the Alliance, what's the difference between the Alliance and the Heartland, what are our ambitions currently, how does that fit into the transport agenda, but also then raise the bar a bit by referring out to some of the new challenges that have been put in front of us by the National Infrastructure Commission and how I think we need to play together into that agenda. So that's what I'm going to try and do. I'd also like to welcome, by the way, and just reiterate what Chris said, that is the welcome to colleagues from the Midlands Engine and the Transport for the North. I don't see us as competitors, and there are those who try and put us together as competitors and say, you know, any successful one is at the expense of the other. I absolutely do not agree with that. I think the three of us are colleagues. I think we're partners. I think together we constitute the parts of the UK that are really going to drive this country forward. We all have to have the investment that we need. If we don't each get the investment, then quite frankly, this country overall is not going to achieve its potential. So therefore, I'm really, really pleased to see everybody from across the UK here today to join us at this first initial conference of ours. So if I just move on to talk a little bit about what's the Strategic Alliance. It's a question I've been asked a couple of times since I arrived this morning over coffee. Sometimes we talk about the Alliance, sometimes we talk about the Heartland. What's the difference? Let me be really clear. The Alliance is the grouping of councils and local enterprise partnerships that have got together in this part of the world. Initially, we formed ourselves, it was Oxfordshire, Northamptonshire, and Buckinghamshire. We were a grouping that actually had very similar personalities in terms of the council areas. We had a great camaraderie in terms of the leadership. We trust each other, we work very well together. We knew we could do great things together. And since then we've grown with like-minded transport authorities, building that arc between Oxford and Cambridgeshire. So the Alliance is, if you like, the alliance of the councils, and at a very early stage we decided we had to involve business. This was not going to be about a public sector in isolation. This had to be something that was absolutely integral to the way in which business operated across the area. So we invited our local enterprise partnerships to join us at a very early stage. And that geography that we now cover is what we call England's economic heartland. And it's very much a partnership that we want to expand and build with you, who are the actual contractors and deliverers of much of the transport infrastructure that this economy needs across the heartland. It's very much based on, as I've said up there, it's trust, it's confidence, mutual respect, and I have to say, in the 2.5 years since we launched the Alliance and the Heartland here at Silverstone, on a podium just around the corner actually, I mean, I think that success and that trust has really shown how we've made a lot of progress in a very short time. In terms of the potential of the Heartland, Chris alluded to it just now, but it's enormous. It's a part of the world that in many ways doesn't receive the attention it really deserves, because it is absolutely the entrepreneurial and business heart of this country. We are a net contributor to the UK economy in a way that many other parts of the UK just aren't. We give far more, which can be getting redistributed to other parts of the UK to help them grow and prosper as well. But without the success of this area, the whole of the UK doesn't have the fuel in its engine to actually get motoring. We've got a population of 3.5 million, and that's set to grow very rapidly in the next 20 to 30 years. We have a very large gross value added. And again, I'm going to come back and talk about the potential to grow that really significantly in the next 20 to 30 years. And we're a major source of business, both large, everything from the distribution sector, down to a multiplicity of small and medium enterprises that actually power the UK economy. But that economic success can't be taken for granted. And if there's one thing I'd say about governments of every colour, there is a tendency to take economic success in areas like this as a given, and it's not. Success only flourishes where it has the right investment and the right culture and the right attention from government, both local and national. And what we see already is that the infrastructure in this area, quite frankly, is beginning to creak because of the growth and the success that we actually have. What we need to see is the right investment and the right focus by national government into this area to make sure that as the housing growth, the economic growth, the jobs growth takes place, we can actually maintain that growth without overloading the transport network that exists here. So one of the things we decided very early on was that the Heartland Alliance wanted to become one of the first sub-regional national transport bodies that the government has proposed. And that's very much where we're aiming at the moment, and my colleague Heather will talk more about that. Because that way we can actually have a statutory role in helping drive forward that infrastructure agenda and that transport agenda through government. The step change, I think, that's been quite interesting, and it really dates back to around last November, is the interjection of the National Infrastructure Commission. Now, as a group of councils and a group of LEPs, we recognised the potential of this area, and we knew that it needed investment, we knew it needed focus to help it grow and reach its potential. But what was interesting was about the same time, government, originally George Osborne, commissioned the new National Infrastructure Commission to look at this area as well, particularly looking at the cities of Oxford and Cambridge through Milton Keynes to see what that potential was. They reported and have actually now come up with conclusions very similar to our own, but also injecting some new thoughts into it. Because what they're saying is that there is enormous potential here. They want to actually focus on building the new expressway between Oxford and Cambridge via Milton Keynes, which is great. But they're also looking at really significant uplifts in housing growth. So it's not just about business. What they want to inject into the equation is a really major uplift on housing growth above what's already a very ambitious housing agenda. If you just take the existing housing numbers that are proposed in this area, you're looking at something like 1 million new houses being built in this region by 2050. That's a phenomenal number of houses. And I just pose the question, to what extent can that uplift be delivered without really substantial new injections of capital from central government? And how deliverable is that? So I think that's one of the challenges we face. And it will also put immense pressure on our infrastructure. One of the things we discovered very early was if you wanted to get from Oxford to Cambridge, the quickest way is via London. That can't be right. That's why things like East-West Rail and the Expressway are just so vital if you're going to realise that economic potential for this region. Moving forward, we really need to see to what extent we can work together as a group of councils, as a group of local authorities, how we can work together with our colleagues in the districts, particularly with the housing agenda becoming so strong now from central government, how we can work together with partners in the transport industry, and to recognise it's not just a cities agenda. I mean, if I have one commentary on the NIC report, they talk about Oxford, they talk about Cambridge, they talk about Milton Keynes. But actually, the Heartland is far more than that. The Heartland comprises a very large area of UK geography which has enormous potential, not just the cities, but right across that region. And it's not just about housing. It's about using the region to explore some of the new technologies, whether it's driverless cars, whether it's high technology and fibre broadband, whether it's new ways of actually being a hothouse for some of the greatest innovation that this country can come up with. I think this is the region that can lead the way on that. And that's one of the key messages that Heather and I gave to David Gork when we met with him just a couple of weeks ago, that we can be the hotbed for driving this country forward. So what we need, if we're going to realise this potential, is a partnership. I compare it to Silverstone here. We're out of the pits. We've moved off the starting post. We've accelerated down the first straight. We want to reach that finishing line. But the only team that reaches that finishing line is the one that really works as a team. It's the one that not only has the great driver, but it has the great pits team. It has everybody behind it coordinating its success. And for me, that's a key message I want to come out of today, which is it's not just about individuals, it's not just about individual groups, it's about all of us working together as one team to realise what I think is the enormous potential that we have as England's economic heartland. And I look forward to meeting with you and working with you through the rest of today and going forward to realise that potential. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.